All right, welcome to another episode of The Playbook by Charlie, episode 9. If you're a returner, thank you for joining us again. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please hit that like, subscribe, share, and please share this with anybody who might find it important. So today's guest is someone who has lived the reality of entrepreneurship. She's the founder and CEO of Brown Sugar and Coffee, an established 501 organization focused on mental health and holistic wellness, as well as a growing coffee startup cafe. So today we're going to be diving into what it really means to start, to adapt, and to keep moving forward through the entrepreneurial journey when sometimes it feels lonely or when the odds are stacked against you. So if you've ever thought about starting something of your own, this episode is for you. Please welcome Saraijah Barnes. Welcome to the Playbook.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie.
Of course, of course. So before we dive into your journey and the lessons, I like to start with this one, a question that I ask all my guests. If you had to teach one class on dancing, cooking, or singing, what would it be?
Okay, that's really good. That's actually a really great question. I would have to say dancing.
Dancing, why?
Yeah. One, I'm not a singer. I learned that the hard way. And I mean, cooking, I feel like that's really great, but I really feel like you can get to know people, know their history, and experience beautiful challenges and also push through with those internal barriers that may be birthed through dialogue or internal
Mhm.
dialogue through movement. So I think that dancing offers that, and it's healing, offers so many hormonal positives that
Mhm.
uplift the spirit and offer internal optimism.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I love that answer. And speaking of teaching, take us back to the beginning. Like, what made you start Brown Sugar and Coffee in the first place?
So, Brown Sugar and Coffee started off as a personal Instagram handle. And so at that time, it was kind of a concept that I transferred over to a business concept or idea as how brown sugar met coffee. I
Mhm.
struggled with mental health, as I was getting older, especially within my developmental ages of like 12 to 19 with depression and anxiety and stuff of that sort. So I really found refuge in like coffee shops, the atmosphere, the culture,
Mhm.
the aroma. And so I really wanted to offer a feeling through experiences similar to the feeling that I had in the coffee spot, but at that time I didn't have the capital to start a coffee shop. So for me, it was being outdoors, being in community, movement. Since 3 to 18, I was a dancer. So that was something
Mhm.
that I really resonated with that I wanted to offer to other people. So that was when I actually, at the time, I made a common mistake of misidentifying the entity that my operation should be under. So at
Mhm.
first, it started off as an LLC, but I was operating as a nonprofit. I was offering a lot of free things. I was teaching mental health first aid and question, persuade, refer, which are suicide prevention trainings for free through my entity. So yeah, ultimately, I wanted to just recreate the feeling that I had through coffee shops, but through my own version of that.
I love that. I love that. And, as you were talking about the way going into a coffee shop, as far as the smell and what you thought about it and how it made you feel, I feel like one of the things in as far as in real estate is meeting up with realtors or meeting up with different partners at a coffee shop. And
Yeah.
something about going and getting coffee and connecting, sipping on the drink, just has a way of bringing people together or feeling like you're more connected to somebody. Does that kind of make sense?
1,000%. So,
Mhm.
as we know, coffee most popularly it's through the social interaction,
Mhm.
similar to tea, similar to wine. And so, yeah, I think that many of us kind of implement the practice of drinking coffee through like social interactions.
Exactly, exactly. And that actually connects us to something that we talked about kind of off the air. So recently you were tasked with a big decision as far as moving from one city to another. And when it comes to business, as you know, any decision can be a big one or a risky one. So when it comes to your relationship with taking big leaps, do you think your view on risk and risk management has changed over time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I started my business pretty young. I started my business at 19. That was when
Mm,
I thought, okay, this is something that I would want to do. And during that process, you're reliant on other people's capital in order to survive.
mhm,
So at that time, I don't necessarily think that I thought about the privilege of taking the leap. Taking the leap absolutely has a lot of privileges, especially
mhm.
when you're thinking about the social support, whether that's the financial capital, social capital, etc. And so now as I've shifted and I've gotten older and I started off as an LLC and realized that my entity needed to be a 501c3. So then I'm identifying, hey, that this is the 501c3. And then now as I have the opportunity to go into the social or go into the coffee business, now able to allocate that business under the LLC. It just, I'm realizing, okay, well, as I'm older, it takes a lot of strategizing. And so what that looked like for me was I ended up working full-time job through the mobile crisis response team through Riverside County. And that was my main stream of income that allowed me the opportunity to fund my business. And so I think that there's two parts of risk taking, right? There's the strategizing,
Yeah.
where you have a clear path of, the next course of actions. Then there's the emotional, the spiritual response that is going to, I guess, shift and encourage you to follow through with the strategy. And
Exactly.
so yeah,
Exactly.
that's how I feel like right now where I'm at. It makes sense.
No, no, it does. No, it does. And you mentioned now, as far as having to take your business from, was it an LLC to something else or to switching over, that's, I feel like one of the less glamorous sides of being an entrepreneur, of just literally having to learn every single thing. Like, oh, don't do it that way. You got to do it this way. When, everybody is different as far as, maybe we should have looked something up. Maybe we should have found out to do how to do it this way. What's one thing that you didn't expect that hit you the hardest as far as being a business owner?
One thing that hit me the hardest was probably collaborations.
Mm,
And understanding healthy collaborations versus harmful collaborations. I think that as social media takes a turn, even when we're thinking, right, it's September 10th, 2025, and Pilates has hit the fan. And you're going to see that there's going to be a lot of Pilates-based businesses that are going to rise because the ticket sell is higher than yoga. And so when I'm looking at partnerships, especially within the wellness industry, you're going to find people that are not necessarily focused on the purpose, but are focused on the financial results, which kind of brings us to just the understanding of the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. When I'm looking at like the partnerships, I'm looking at people who have the qualities of innovation, who are problem solvers, that are able to take healthy risks. Whereas when, I was starting out and trying to understand my partnerships, I'm looking at people who are trying to adopt something that is already invented, and just put their name on it, sign it, and try to receive a
mhm.
check. And so, yeah, it just really, that's the thing that hit me the hardest. And so one thing that I learned from that is ensuring that I have the proper formalities and paperwork to support my intellectual property so that I am not taken advantage of, and that the things that I am trying to innovate and create is going to be done ethically.
Hmm. That makes sense. So essentially just making sure that you're making the right connections and, not going to anywhere that says that they know how to do something or someone that says they can help you out, but it's also doing our homework as business owners and making sure that we're not just collaborating with anybody. Because again, if we put our business behind somebody or some corporation that maybe isn't honest about something, that's going to fall back on us and make us look not as good, I would say.
1,000%. I think
Hmm.
many people have different understandings of what collaboration looks like.
Hmm.
Collaboration is an expansion, like a relationship, right? You come with your whole life, somebody else comes with their whole life. You come
Yeah.
together and you expand your perception of reality,
Hmm.
expand your circumstances. And that is what the collaboration looks like instead of it being one full entity and then half
Hmm.
the entity trying to adopt the qualities of the other. So
Yeah.
I think as you're just looking at, okay, how can I expand healthily? It's okay, who has similar values and has their things kind of all sorted out? And then am I ready to take up the challenge of partnering with another entity so that I am able to ensure that I contribute healthily as well?
Yep. You both have to do your part in helping each other out. So you mentioned the difference between being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. Tell us about that.
So, with being a business owner, that is where you are operating, the day-to-day operations, ensuring the consistent revenue and managing like
Hmm.
those day-to-day activities. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. I'm owning a business. I own Dutch Bros. I own Starbucks. You own a franchise. Somebody else did the innovation and the
Okay.
creation of this concept.
Yeah.
That is the entrepreneur who's thinking so much further than just one location. But
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to own farms of coffee. I'm going to be a roastery and expand and give philanthropic efforts. That's the entrepreneur who is a little bit more expansive. And I think that as we talk about, yes, I'm a small business owner or I'm a micro entrepreneur, and I'm looking at something a lot larger than what my current brand or business is doing. So yeah, I think that is the distinguishing factors is the qualities attributed to the vision.
Hmm. Perfect. Perfect. And through the journey of entrepreneurship, I feel like a lot of social media, online, even entrepreneurs themselves have said that, oh, it can be a lonely journey. You're going to have a lot of sad days. You're going to be depressed. Do you think it has to be a lonely journey through entrepreneurship? Can you have somebody as far as whether a business partner, or do you have to wait until you actually make it and some people actually see your vision for it to kind of come to fruition?
So I think that there's a difference between being alone and then feeling lonely. Like I can feel
Hmm.
lonely in a room full of people. Whereas I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it's inevitable that you're going to feel lonely. Even when you are having a business partner, you guys are focusing on different parts of the operation. You
Hmm.
may be a CFO, you may be a CEO, you're focusing on different aspects of the business. And so no one's going to be as excited as you. Nobody's going to be as disappointed as you, frustrated as you. The rage that you may experience, the immense gratitude or excitement of, a certain milestone in your business. Sorry.
I was like,
Milestone in your
uh-oh.
business.
No worries.
And so it's just interesting that there is that glamorous kind of look
Yeah.
to that, but there's so many other aspects of your business. And I think the glamour starts coming in either when you met a very large milestone and you have a celebratory opportunity where people are able to congregate and celebrate you for it. But then you look back in retrospect and you're like, wait, where were you guys when I was struggling with this area? So there is a sense of loneliness that is also applied there. But I think that you don't necessarily have to be alone in the loneliness. So that is where you're looking at your support system. That's when we're looking at the healthy coping skills of just ensuring that you're connecting with people. Opposite action when you're feeling like you want to just hibernate in your bed because this deal didn't close out. Go outside, get some fresh air, connect with people, learn. So yeah, I think that's my take on that.
Got to find a healthy way to deal with everything that's going on through your business. And to kind of touch on that, what are some things that you do when, shit hits the fan, everything seems to be going against you at this time period? What are some things that you do to kind of deal with the stress or deal with the things to get you back in your happy place?
So I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but
Hmm.
entrepreneurship, right? There's a strategy and then there's the spiritual aspect of it.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say that I've gotten it right all the time. I've actually made a
Hmm.
fool of myself in some aspects because of the frustration that I may have had. But I think that one thing that I've learned when I am human and I'm human and I need to pivot, that my set in stone, I can't be set in stone with anything. I need to be adaptable. And so in those seasons of adaptability, or I'm noticing, hey, some just the odds are against me. I'm not
Hmm.
feeling welcomed in the market that I initially felt at home with. There's some limitations, there's a glass ceiling. And so I think at that moment, I realized, okay, wait, what is this trying to teach me?
Hmm.
My success is nonlinear. And I think when we identify and understand, like, hey, my success is not linear, ego goes out the window. And we're able to actually activate what that strategy was. And so that may require some additional market research. That may look at readdressing your SWOT analysis, etc. But that is just an opportunity for there to be a more expansive approach. For example, if I'm operating in an area where the local economy is suffering, and yet I'm wanting to put this really expensive building in this area, is it
Hmm.
going to be sustainable even though people like the aesthetic?
Yes. Yes.
It's not sustainable. So that may require for me to look into a different area that maybe has a little bit more wiggle room for an investment. That area is
Hmm.
sustainable while also maintaining affordability. So it just looks a little bit different because based off the economy, based off the local infrastructure, the equity of the city, etc.
Got you. Got you. So let's pivot for a minute and let's talk about brown sugar and coffee. So, what role does culture play in your business, and how do you actually continue to build upon that with the collaborations or with the different events that you're doing?
Culture is the pinnacle of the business. Brown
Mhm.
sugar, even just that term was a nickname I adopted because of my skin color. Even with my logo, it's half my face and half of a coffee mug.
Mhm.
And it's just a place or even just a symbol of where people are able to identify themselves in the vision, in the culture of coffee. Culture is intersectional. Culture can be wellness culture, culture can be ethnic,
Yes.
the coffee culture, and in every aspect of it, we're intersecting. On the 501c3, and we have an event, it's a bi monthly event called the Wellness Market, and there are about 35 BIPOC owned businesses within the wellness industry, from nurses to clinical therapists to massage therapists, etc. And we congregate under the name of wellness, and we do like Afrofusion dancing. We even had the organization Angola Preto Velo, which they do Capoeira de Angola, which is a Afro-Brazilian jiu-jitsu. We have R&B yoga. We
Mhm.
have all these different ways of connecting wellness to culture, because wellness was not necessarily something that we had to learn. That is
Yes.
already embedded in the culture. If you are waking up on Sunday morning and your grandparents or your parents are cooking bacon, eggs, whatever, that aroma just feels like, it feels like home. And so we want that to be on the outside of the household to let people know that the value systems are already embedded here: community, connection, movement, dancing. If you're listening to music on a Sunday morning, whether that's jazz or house or gospel or whatever the case is,
Mhm.
it's something that we all can do, and we all relate to. Same thing with the coffee culture. And so we're able to connect with each other through the social beverage. And as we are going to progress, which I started in April for the coffee business. And so I'll be going to Costa Rica towards the end of the year,
Oh, wow,
to
nice.
look and harvest with the farmers and to bring the culture of the farmers to the hands of others who are holding the cup of coffee that was harvested. So culture goes beyond just me and you, black and white. It's
Yes.
intersectional, and that's what I would like to continue to propel.
That's brilliant. And it's like you said, culture is everything. It's not just, again, us. It can be literally anything. And you're doing a fantastic job of bringing all us to bringing all us together. But it can be literally anybody to kind of bring them in and make them feel welcomed. And as we kind of mentioned, touched on already, it's as simple as two people sitting down, having a cup of coffee and striking up a conversation that can lead to so many beautiful things, whether it's business, relationships, coming together for collaboration and anything. And you're doing a good job of bringing people together.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
If somebody came to you and they said, I want to start a business, what would you tell them?
Um, what does the end goal look like for you? I think that we start with a very minuscule lens of just, oh, I want to make money or I want to be within this industry. And then after that, it like dies down. And it's because people don't have a clear vision of what they're looking like. And that is why, the concept of vision board making is so important. But part of the vision board making that is lost is the steps on how to attain this vision. So I may
Mhm.
have a whole vision board of a house and a Lamborghini sitting out front of it and a little chihuahua, I don't know, just sitting out
Right.
there.
Huh.
But what does that look like? Does that look like opening up a bank account? Does that look like opening up two different savings accounts that's going to help with building equity or whatever the case is? Does it look like making partnerships outside of the country? So it just really depends on how devoted and how ready are you. And optimism and excitement can only last so long because the business starts actually feeling like a business when the ambition, when the excitement, when the like, ooh, the glamour is off and you still have to show up. So yeah, I think that's the question. Do you want it even if you don't want it at the
Mhm.
time, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like you touched on earlier, you're not going to be able to control everything, but you can strategize and you can plan. And, if you have a plan in place and you had a strategy, when things do get rocky and when things, fall apart, you can fall back on your plan as opposed to you just saying, and I think I'm just going to do it and whatever happens, happens. That's when you start to fall apart because it's like you said, you don't have that end game, that vision. If you have the vision, then ultimately anything that kind of gets in your way, you're not going to be deterred because you know what your end game is.
1,000%. And so
Mm.
many people have asked, how long have I been in business? I've been missed, I guess, dated when people are referring to my business opening in 2022 and not realizing that it just opened 2025. So what? That's
Mhm.
5 months of being in business as the LLC. And the reason for the upward mobility has been because of the niching. People don't niche. People want to just take any opportunity and think like that is going to get them to that, direction or that goal. To some degree, you're not going to have the privilege of just saying no. You're going to have to, do the dirty work before you get somewhere else. But if you have no understanding of your market and your target demographic, you're going to be lost. So that
Yes.
brings me to research. How much are you willing to be a student in this journey of entrepreneurship? Because we are not omniscient, we do not know everything, and we're constantly continuing our education. And with the nonprofit, I know about the financial department. I'm familiar with even just conducting the exercises. I'm certified in Pilates and yoga. I have the mental health background, all these different aspects. How much are you willing to learn about your business, or is somebody else going to know more about your business than you do? So it
Mhm.
just is, how much do you want it? How much information are you going to accumulate to make this sufficient and sustainable?
Yep. Yep. Looking ahead, what does growth look like for brown sugar and coffee and for you personally?
Ooh, I love this
Mhm.
question because that's part of why I'm going to Costa Rica. Eventually, I'm wanting to own just a little sliver to begin with of the land, not
Yeah.
necessarily exclusive to Costa Rica, but just anywhere I really feel called to. So that is why I'm volunteering on the farms. Eventually, I want to go to Ethiopia because that's where my favorite beans are. But Costa Rica will suffice as it's a lot cheaper than it is to go to Ethiopia
Mhm.
by thousands of dollars. And so, yeah, it's really looking at that. We want to become a roastery, but ultimately integrate both the 501c3 and the LLC together. I won't go into like too much detail, but I can smell, hear, visualize the building that we're going to have, and it's been consistent throughout the years of the
Mhm.
conception of this idea, and really bringing the people that I've partnered with along the way. They don't even know it, and really like that is part of community. Community
Mhm.
is not stepping on their shoulders and leaving them on the ground. Community is we're going to help each other. You'll step on my shoulders, I'll step on your shoulders so that we're able to climb the ladder together. And then once we get into that destination, that we're offering an opportunity that is sustainable not only for their business but for our operation as well. And so yeah, I brown sugar and coffee is definitely more than just a coffee concept. It's expansive, hopefully eventually in the context of even more ethical than Amazon, but Amazon in the sense of expansion and innovation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. How many people can you help? How many people can you serve? I feel like those are the two important questions. Where can people support you and where can they follow your journey?
Me?
Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah. So as far as Instagram, we're Brown Sugar and as a Nancy Coffee. So Brown
Mhm.
Sugar and Coffee on Instagram, and for the nonprofit, Brown Sugar and Coffee LLC on Instagram, and then we have our website, brownsugarcoffee.com.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you, Sariah. This was amazing. I learned a few things about you, and I'm sure the audience will be able to take away at least one thing from this conversation. And, somebody out there watching this, looking to maybe start a business, is going to have this in the back of their mind as far as, okay, like I know what I want to do, but what's my end game? What's the thing that I want that's going to keep me going through the ups and downs? So this was amazing. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you so much and for the insightful questions that even provoked me to get my wheels turning.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you again.